what vegetables you want to grow. You've sketched out your garden. You either already have one and you just sketched it out on a piece of paper along with me in the previous lesson. You wrote in which beds are going to have which vegetables. And so now what I want to talk about is spacing and planning, which is going over the spacing of the vegetables so that we can plan how many starts do you need and how many seeds do you need. Okay? But what you need is you need that plan of the garden. And what you also need is you need your bed length, right? Hopefully you're working with a 30-inch bed because that's kind of standard. If you're not, you may have to adjust some of the numbers that I have. But I'll tell you how I get to those numbers so that you can figure it out for yourself. Okay, so make sure you know your bed length. So if you're going to be doing 5 feet of lettuce, you got to know that. Because that's going to give you your plants per foot. And that's what I'm trying to work on, is plants per foot. And there's some standard spacing, and I'm going to go over each one of those. You have a 1x2, 2x2, 3x3, and 4x4. And what that is I'm taking a bed, and for a 2x2, I'm splitting the bed into 2 rows. So you have 2 rows on a bed, right? And that could be kale, that could be broccoli, that could be, if you want really big celeriac, whatever it is, it's 2 rows down a bed. And if you take a 30-inch bed, you do 2 rows, it means the 2 rows will be 15 inches apart, which is half of a 30-inch bed, right? A 1x2 means that you're doing half of a bed width in one single row. So you're going one row, 15 inches apart, right? So every 15 inches, there'll be a plant. On a 2x2, right, every 15 inches, there'll be 2 plants. And so there'll be a little chart on this lesson on how many, right, with a decimal point of how many plants per foot. And then you just take that number and you times it by the amount of feet you're going to grow. And you want to include successions in that. So you want to say, well, I'm going to plant 10 feet of lettuce a week, so that will be 10 times the number for a 3x3 planting. It's 3.6 heads of lettuce per foot. So if you were going to do 2 feet of lettuce, right, it's 3.6, which come out to 7 and a little change, so it'd actually be 7 lettuce heads. But you're doing them in 3s, right? So you just want to go down to the next multiple of 3. And once you do it a few times, it's not, it's going to be really easy because there's really only a few plantings, right? And so a 3x3 is going to be 3 rows on a bed, and those will be 10 inches apart because you take 30 inches divided by 3, that's 10 inches. So each row will be 10 inches apart. Then the in-row spacing will be 10 inches. A 4 row, same thing. You take 30 inches, divide it by 4, you get 7.5 inches. So what you're going to do is essentially just using this table, and then you're going to go through your drawing and you're just going to write down the number of how many transplants you're going to need for each one of those beds. And you always want to err on the side of having more than enough. So you want to times those numbers by 1.3 and have some extras, because it's better to throw them away than not have them. And as I go into the vegetable by vegetable lessons, I will be talking about which ones germinate the best, which ones you should have some extras of, which one you don't need as many extras, and that's all going to help. So your plan now is where your vegetables are going to go, how many bed feet, and now you're going to also have the numbers of how many transplants you're going to need. And that's going to relate to how many seeds you're going to need, right? And always have a little bit of extra, right? If you calculate you need 100 seeds of whatever plant, get yourself 200. Seeds last a long time. They're not that expensive. You don't need to buy 5,000. But if it comes in a pack of 150, you're probably good if you only need 100. That's going to make up for it. But let's talk about direct seeded now. Direct seeded, that's really going to depend on which one it is. So for something like radish, which we're going to do 4 rows on a bed, right? That's going to be about 60 to 80 seeds a foot. Something like carrot, where you're adding more seeds because we're going to be thinning them out, it's about 100 seeds a foot, right? So I'm going to put that chart down there and just give you the number of seeds per foot, right? And plants per foot based on the spacing. And I will be adding that information to every single vegetable as we go through them vegetable by vegetable, so you get to know, because when you're transplanting, you're going to need to know that spacing as well. And these are just general. You know, you can make things tighter. You can, if you want things smaller. If you want smaller kale plants, you can bring them a little tighter. So it's just a general recommendation. And as you change your spacings, then you're going to change how many seedlings you need, and you can figure out these numbers yourself. You know, just like if you have wider beds. So if you have a 40-inch bed and you do 4 rows on a bed, then those are going to be 10 inches apart, right? Because it's 40 inches divided by 4 is 10 inches. And that just gives you the math to kind of figure it out for yourself if you have to. But if you're new and you just want to follow my recommendations, that's good too. These are very loose recommendations for having big vegetables that are not crowded, right? It's not that intensive, right? You can always get a little bit closer. All right, so I hope that helps. And you know, it's good to plan these things out so that you know what you're going to need.